Good morning, council
Good morning,
members.
Jessica.
As Cindy mentioned, this is one of our longer staff reports. And the reason it's so long is that the Delta Plan itself contains relatively little background information about transportation compared to some of the other Delta as place issues. And in researching the staff report, we found that transportation actually has a lot of similarities to water in that the essential element is flow. So if there's not enough flow, the local economy suffers from a lack of connection between urban and rural areas. And if there's too much flow, there are traffic jams that prevent farmers from getting their crops to market and hold up the progress of commuters and freight. In addition, the water and transportation systems both have aging infrastructure, and they're both threatened by levee instability and sea level rise. So while there's new information here, I think you'll find a lot of the challenges to sound very familiar. So, of course, our focus is always on the Delta Plan. And so in doing this research, we started with the 3 recommendations in the Delta Plan related to transportation. And they're fairly diverse. The first one, Delta's Place recommendation number 2, is all about State Route 160, which the recommendation is for Caltrans to propose this as a national scenic byway. It already has state scenic status. But if it were a national scenic byway, there could be opportunities to improve signage and interpretation, as well as amenities for recreational access, and it would enhance the visitor's sense of place. So the second recommendation, number 5, related to transportation, has to do with all the roads in the Delta, roads, highways, freeways, and basically it says that it recommends that Caltrans and local agencies plan the infrastructure, the transportation infrastructure, to meet the needs of development consistent with sustainable community strategies, local plans, the Delta Protection Commission's Land Use and Resource Management Plan, and the Delta Plan. So basically it recognizes the importance of the transportation system to the local economy, sustainability, and the placemaking factors. The third recommendation is number 6 in the Delta's Place chapter, and it says to plan for state highways. And what this really means is it goes back to the Delta Reform Act, which, as Cindy mentioned, calls for the council in consultation with Caltrans to address the effects of climate change and sea level rise. And the Delta Reform Act mentions 3 state highways, but there are actually 5 that we learned as we looked into it that cross the Delta, as well as 3 interstate highways. So this element of the Delta Reform Act led to a recommendation in the Delta Plan, which calls on the council to, as part of the prioritization of state levy investments, to consult with Caltrans and consider those effects of flood hazards and sea level rise. Now, as far as the challenges facing the transportation system, the 2 main challenges are the poor condition of the existing infrastructure and also the flood risk, which is projected to increase due to sea level rise and other climate change factors, such as changes in precipitation patterns. And I'm going to leave that to our panelists to give you more information about. So, as Cindy mentioned, the council can use this briefing as an opportunity to consider how to best integrate transportation issues into the ongoing levy investment prioritization study, to provide additional consultation on BDCP, and to promote better coordination among the many transportation planning efforts that are going on in the Delta, including Caltrans climate change vulnerability assessments. So at today's meeting, you will hear from experts representing the local, regional, and state points of view about road and rail transportation in the Delta. And I'm going to introduce all of them at once, and they are welcome to come on up to the table. We're going to have Garth Hopkins, who is the Chief of the Office of Regional Planning of the Division of Transportation Planning for Caltrans, and he will brief the Council on Caltrans' work related to climate change adaptation. And Martin Engelman is the Deputy Executive Director of Planning for the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. He will talk about transportation issues and their plan for Contra Costa County. Michael Selling is the Deputy Director of Engineering Services for the San Joaquin County Public Works Department, and he will discuss their current and future challenges to operations and maintenance of their roadways. And Sam Shelton, who is an Associate Planner for the Sacramento Area Council of Governments, will brief the Council on SACOG's Rural Urban Connections Strategy, or RUCS, which you all may have heard about. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Garth.
And I'll just point out that a brief description of each of our panelists is included on page 9 of your staff report.